Good morning and welcome to ABC News Breakfast on Friday, the 20th of December. I'm Beverly O'Connor.
And I'm Paul Kennedy. These are the top stories today.
Guilty verdicts delivered justice for the family of British soldier Lee Rigby.
This has been the toughest time of our lives. No one should have to go through what we've been through as a family.
Hundreds of truancy officers to boost school attendance in Indigenous communities.
The fountain of youth. Scientists wind back the ageing process in mice.
And Central Coast Mariners return to their winning ways in the A-League.
Two Muslim converts have been found guilty of murdering a British soldier in a gruesome daylight attack. Michael Adebolajo and Michael Adebowale ran over 25-year-old soldier Lee Rigby near a London Army barracks back in May.
The pair then attacked the Afghan war veteran with knives and a meat cleaver before dragging his corpse onto the middle of the road. Adebolajo told the court he was waging a war for Allah in response to Western wars in Muslim countries. For the latest on the Lee Rigby trial, our Europe correspondent Barbara Miller joins us now from London. Barbara, thanks for your time. What was the immediate reaction to this verdict?
Well, the immediate reaction, Paul, of the two defendants was not really much at all. They have stayed pretty quiet during this three-week trial, either staring straight in front of them or looking down. So there was no reaction from them. Lee Rigby's family was in court, as they have been throughout this trial. Some of them broke down in tears. We've seen them on several occasions having to leave the courtroom during the trial as some of the graphic vision of Lee Rigby's death has been shown. One of the defendants, Michael Adebolajo, did, however, as he was led down away from the dock, kiss a copy of the Koran that he was holding and hold it up to the gallery. It was a slightly defiant, slightly arrogant gesture, but that's all we saw from them. After the verdict was handed down, the family said, obviously, that they were still devastated by the loss of Lee Rigby. He was the father of a young child. He was an uncle. But they said that they did feel that justice had been done.
And what's going to happen now with sentencing? I believe there's a slight delay because of another inquiry underway.
There is an appeal going on into life sentences and what exactly a life sentence means. So the judge has said he'll wait until the outcome of that. That's expected in January. So we'll expect sentencing next year. One would think that these will be fairly harsh sentences. There was never any doubt at all that these were the two men that had carried out that brutal and brazen attack on this young soldier in the Woolwich suburb of London earlier this year.
It was such an extraordinary case. And after the crime, there was people wanting to know what the motive was behind here. Did that go into some depth? Was that revealed in this court proceedings, or was it simply those one-off statements?
Well, what we did see again was the replaying of vision shot by passers-by in the immediate aftermath of the killing, where one of the two men, with blood still on his hands, almost goes into a kind of rant where he says that this is the revenge, an eye for an eye, a tooth for the killing of Muslims in foreign lands, and that this British soldier is a legitimate target. Also, during the trial, a police interview with Michael Adebolajo was played. It's a rather odd interview. He has some kind of sheet over his head as he talks. He talks in a quiet, almost muffled voice. And he says that they consider Lee Rigby and any soldier a legitimate target because when you join the British Army, you know really that your life is at risk. They said they didn't single out Lee Rigby. He was simply the first soldier they saw on the day that they had decided to carry out this attack, which they say was in the name of Allah and that they say they were at war. The jury was told very firmly by the judge that that was not a legal defence, and clearly the jury didn't see it as that either by handing down these guilty verdicts.
And Barbara, what are the broader implications of this case now? There's discussions ongoing around intelligence and why these two weren't picked up earlier, or in fact they were known but weren't intercepted in any way.
they were definitely both on the police radar, and Michael Adebolajo in particular was clearly becoming radicalised. He had travelled to Somalia. He had been seen preaching and was involved with a radical group. So, of course, questions are being asked as to whether authorities should have been more aware of what they were up to. But what the authorities here are saying is, look, it's very difficult. We're facing a very different kind of terrorist threat. This is not your 9/11 attack, your 7/7 attack. These are lone operators. They were inspired by the Al-Qaeda movement, but they, as far as we know, received no instructions. Mentoring, they acted alone, and it's very, very difficult, say authorities, to keep track of those people and to really decide which one of them could at any moment carry out such a lone attack as the one we saw in May this year.
Yeah, very tough situation there. Barbara, thanks very much for the update on that case. Now with the rest of the morning's news, here's Bev.
Paul, thank you. The federal government will recruit about 400 truancy officers to improve school attendance in remote Aboriginal communities. The $28 million plan targets 40 remote communities across Australia, with one school attendance officer employed for every 20 students. Over the past 5 years, the schools have had attendance rates well below 70%. The officers will work directly with families to ensure children go to school. Police have uncovered the body of a missing Korean man in Brisbane's southwest. 28-year-old Min Tae Kim was reported missing after he arranged a currency exchange with someone that he'd met online. Officers made the grisly discovery in a shallow grave on a vacant property last night. 2 men and a woman are in police custody. Former police officers suffering post-traumatic stress say excessive surveillance by an insurance company is aggravating their trauma. The officers told the ABC 7:30 that they were subjected to round-the-clock surveillance by MetLife, which was assessing their claims. Psychiatrists have urged the insurance company to quit the process because it's exacerbating their trauma. But MetLife says the use of surveillance is industry standard. Australian and American scientists say they've successfully tested a fountain of youth which reverses the ageing process in mice. The work found a series of molecular events enable communication inside cells between the mitochondria and the nucleus. They found that as the communication breaks down, ageing accelerates. It's hoped that this discovery will allow people to live healthier for longer and help treat age-related diseases, including cancer and type 2 diabetes. And we'll have an interview on that topic coming up a little later on in the program. Now, Eastern Australia is continuing to swelter with the heat wave reaching Sydney today. The mercury is expected to hit 35 degrees in Sydney. Canberra is expected to reach a top of 37. Cities across the eastern seaboard can expect temperatures in the high 20s and above. The Weather Bureau says a heat wave from Western Australia has gradually been making its way across the country.
Degrees in Melbourne, but it's as much as 25, 26 degrees in Adelaide, where it has been a scorcher all night. The heat is now moving further up into New South Wales. We're still seeing those low 40s in the western parts of but Sydney, you're heading for 35 degrees and Canberra a top of 37. The sun is just starting to get really strong out here at the moment. Once again, we are expecting a change later this morning, but I have a feeling that we're already looking at some footage that we filmed a little earlier this morning, and as that sun started to come up, some of the scenes down here at St Kilda Beach were absolutely stunning. This morning, let me set the scene, there's quite a few people jogging, a lot of people up early going for an early morning swim, but there doesn't seem to be many people left over from the very warm night that the city has experienced. Let's go around the nation now and see what's happening for today. And on the satellite image, we've got a lot of cloud moving over Western Australia. That's associated with a low pressure trough, and it's drawing a lot of tropical moisture down from the north. Having a look at the synoptic chart, and there's still very hot northerly winds filtering into parts of South Australia, Victoria and up into New South Wales. A little bit cooler, or much cooler actually, for Tasmania today. For Queensland, and a mostly sunny day ahead. Hot apart from coastal storms and isolated showers north of about Bundaberg. It will be a fine day, but again you might get thundery storms with very little rain over the Channel Country and northwest. New South Wales, hot northeast to northwesterly winds. Later on today in the far south you'll get cooler southwesterly winds heading for 42 degrees at Wilcannia. Victoria, hot for inland areas with isolated showers and thunderstorms. They will develop ahead of a southwest to southerly change, and it will reach the far north tonight. Tasmania, showers becoming statewide, clear clearing late in the day, much cooler with light to moderate southerly winds, fresh about the east and west coast. South Australia still have an extreme heat warning, very hot winds ahead of a fresh and gusty south to southeasterly change. This will extend northwards across the state and it should reach Cooper Pedy to Renmark later on tonight. In Western Australia, final on the west coast, further inland and across the east, rain and storms with heavy rains likely around the southern coastal and goldfields districts, and showers and storms expected to the north of the country and also right across the top end. It is still very hot throughout the interior. Tomorrow it will be cooler in Sydney, heading for 25 degrees. Melbourne, isolated showers and a sunny day for both Brisbane and Perth. One thing we do have down here today is a lot of flies, so if you have any insect repellent, please bring it down. I'll catch you in half an hour from St Kilda Beach.